So, Mr. White, you attacked your friend?
What? She stole my slaves first. I didn't even kill her.
I need the truth. Because of the penal codes, if you did kill her, we need to make a new game plan.
Alright, I did kill her, but here's what happened.
Chesterton?
Ah! Why did you kill my slaves? Ah! Die!
Well, because you did kill her, we have to rethink everything. Because of the penal codes...
What in the Samhack or penal codes?
Well, penal codes are...
Originated from the 16th century English Star Chambers Court's common laws, penal codes were created to deter criminals from any illegal activities by defining which crimes were punishable and the consequences of each crime. With state laws being ignored and slowly becoming obsolete, many states in America had thought that creating their own common laws would benefit the American people. Thus, they began to Americanize the laws and codify them, adjusting them to fit the needs of the American people. Almost all states followed England's example. However, Louisiana did not. Louisiana was the only state to create a penal code system based on the Napoleonic Code, or the French Civil Code, staying true to their Roman roots despite of the surrounding states of different descent. Although many states approved of having criminal codes, another term for penal codes, they did not act and rather waited. For instance, Louisiana was one of the first states to draft a penal code system in the 1820s, but did not enact it until later. It was not until New York that the penal code system began to be adopted throughout the country. Penal codes were created by the state legislatures, not the federal government. It is up to the discretion of state officials to destroy or create laws. In order to lessen crime, state legislatures began to make the laws more succinct by spelling out the crimes and punishments that varied by evidence. Before the 19th century, truth and intention were not large factors in determining consequences. Most crimes were simply punishable by whipping or even death. However, after truth and intention added only after a series of cases such as the Croswell versus Jefferson case of 1803, many courts began to see changes in sentencing and crime.
You only have two choices. You can either plead insanity or go to prison for the rest of your life. When the judge asks, you have to decide.
Chesterton White. According to these papers, you've been charged with the murder of Patty Saltshaker, your fellow plantation owner's beloved wife. Apparently, you assaulted the woman with an olive, and records show that there was forced penetration through the throat.
Mental institution in the 18th century. It was horrid. What about now?
The mentally ill were originally chained up in jail cells with up to 5 convicts with only one mattress before institutional reform happened. During the pre-Civil War era, the asylums were reformed by influence from teacher Dorothea Dix and the Quaker morals. Asylum standards require better treatment of their patients, with the belief that a fresh environment secured by walls surrounding the grounds and sympathetic care for each individual would prove to be more successful to procure rates. Patients were no longer stuck in straitjackets. Instead, they were allowed to roam on asylum grounds and were required to participate in productive labor such as sewing, knitting, gathering sticks, and lightweight farm work like churning butter to stay active, since the reformed idea was that the mentally ill could still return to being productive members of society once cured. Reform also meant more social opportunities since they were allowed to meet with other patients with a similar diagnosis. Mental institutions during the pre-Civil War era transformed greatly, from draining the patient's blood and drowning them in ice-cold water to shock them back to insanity, to allowing them mobility, encouragement, better nutrition, sympathy, and more freedom, a philosophy adopted from the Quakers' idea of moral treatment. For example, asylums began to adopt the Kirkbride floor plan that separated different kinds of patients to different wings according to their personality. This way, patient interaction with other patients wouldn't affect their mental health to too much of a degree, and nurses were better able to provide more unique care in regard to patient personality.
What would life be like in the asylum?
President White. Hi, Rosie! How are you? Let's play patty cake!
What?
Have prisons changed as well? By the beginning of the 19th century, imprisonment had replaced public punishment and execution for most crimes except murder and treason. However, two very definite concepts of imprisonment were introduced in New York and Pennsylvania. The institution in Pennsylvania was called a penitentiary, for the inmates were supposed to do penance. The Pennsylvania authorities, believed moralistic Quaker faith, were convinced that man became a lawbreaker through evil influences and corrupt companions. The key to reforming him lay in separating him from all potential for such wicked association and providing him with a small room and exercise area, totally isolated from the human companionship which had led him astray. The solitary cell and its small exercise yard became the prisoner's entire world. He never saw another inmate. New York authorities adopted a slightly different solution in the construction of Auburn State Prison in the early 19th century, feeling that prisoners needed to be taught about hard work. Thus they had the inmates work together. The cells in the Auburn-style prison were smaller than the Pennsylvania ones, for it was designed for guest sleeping. A typical schedule was wake up, eat breakfast, work, eat lunch, work, have dinner, and sleep. Luckily for them, they were given Sundays off. Which should I choose? To be mentally ill or a prisoner?
So, Mr. White, what do you plead?
Mommy! Mommy!